I don't know. I don't know if you're thinking of me or if you would think of me, and I don't know if I can do it. And I don't know if I have the chops to do it.
It all started with a murmur that quickly turned into a storm. George Clooney, one of Hollywood's most beloved and respected actors, known for his charisma, charm, and diplomacy, stunned the entertainment world when he publicly named 5 fellow actors he cannot stand. The revelation came during what was supposed to be a routine sit-down interview. Lighthearted, promotional, nothing out of the ordinary. But as the conversation deepened and veered off into candid territory, something shifted. Clooney, never known for scandalous outbursts or bitter feuds, spoke with unexpected sharpness, calling out names that sent shockwaves across the industry. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The moment he uttered the first name, there was a visible change in the atmosphere. Almost like the air had thickened. No one in the room expected it. For years, Clooney had cultivated an image of the quintessential gentleman actor, unflappable in the face of Hollywood's pettiness, measured even when provoked. He had been the go-to host for the Golden Globes, the peacekeeper on film sets, the bridge between old-school glamour and modern filmmaking ethics. So when he named not 1, not 2, but 5 actors he actively dislikes, without hiding behind veiled allusions or abstract criticism, the entire room fell silent in disbelief. What followed was not a momentary lapse of temper or vague insinuation. Clooney didn't cloak his words in coded industry language. He listed the names with clear intention, an unusual mix of cool composure and resolute frustration. The implication was unmistakable. These weren't passing grudges or recent squabbles. This was something deeper. The audience, stunned into near silence, could only listen as one of the industry's most revered figures peeled back the curtain on the tensions that seethed behind Hollywood's polished facade. This kind of candid disclosure, especially from someone of Clooney's stature, is extremely rare. Actors of his caliber often play the game, sidestepping direct confrontation, protecting their brands, and speaking only in carefully controlled interviews. But this time there was no PR filter, no posturing for public sympathy. It felt raw, real, and deeply personal. It left many questioning what could have possibly provoked someone as even-keeled as Clooney to go public with such a direct rebuke of his peers. As the names circulated across social media and entertainment news platforms, reactions were instant and explosive. Fans were divided, some defending Clooney's honesty, others expressing disbelief that the actor who famously avoided industry feuds would take such a decisive public stance. Analysts and entertainment commentators dissected the moment, each trying to understand not just who was named, but why. And more importantly, what this unprecedented moment said about the inner workings of Hollywood itself. In an industry obsessed with image, alliances, and public perception, this disclosure was more than just a list of personal dislikes. It was a crack in the glittering surface. It hinted at long-standing resentments and perhaps even systemic frustrations that rarely see daylight. Clooney, with decades of experience and influence behind him, seemed to be saying what many actors might think but are too cautious or too bound by their careers to ever admit out loud. Each actor named carries their own weight in the industry. Some are box office draws, others are critical darlings, and a few are rising stars whose names have been buzzing through awards circuits. The effect of being singled out by Clooney, who has long been regarded as a mentor figure in Hollywood, was seismic. The revelation upended public narratives and called into question behind-the-scenes dynamics that had previously seemed benign or even friendly. Industry insiders began speculating about the history between Clooney and the actors he named. Whispers of difficult film shoots, clashes over creative control, or philosophical disagreements about the nature of acting and fame began to resurface. It wasn't hard to imagine that years of unresolved friction, held under wraps out of professional courtesy or fear of mutual fallout, had finally found their outlet. But rather than fueling a media-fueled feud, Clooney's list served a more piercing purpose. It laid bare the reality that even in an industry built on collaboration, not all relationships are built to last. The implications of the moment reverberated far beyond the gossip columns. Agents and publicists scrambled to assess the potential impact on future projects, while studios quietly reconsidered ensemble lineups and casting decisions. Everyone knew that where Clooney's influence reaches, so do subtle shifts in power and opportunity. Directors who had previously worked with him began re-evaluating their associations with the named actors. In an ecosystem where reputation is as valuable as talent, such an endorsement or denunciation can shape careers. Clooney, it seemed, had finally reached a point where diplomacy no longer served him. There was a particular gravity in the way he spoke, a conviction that this wasn't about stirring drama, but about finally telling an unvarnished truth. Perhaps it was a result of decades in the business, years of watching politics play out behind closed doors, or simply the culmination of personal thresholds being crossed too many times. Whatever the cause, the effect was unmistakable. His words shifted the dynamic, marking a rare moment where personal animosity broke through Hollywood's culture of cautious civility. For those who had followed Clooney's career closely, this outburst, if one can even call it that, wasn't so much a betrayal of character as it was a deepening of it. He has always been political, principled, even confrontational when it mattered. Whether on issues of global humanitarianism, the ethics of journalism, or the role of celebrity in public life, Clooney has never hesitated to speak out. This moment felt like a continuation of that same spirit, only now, turned inward on the industry he helped define. There was also something oddly refreshing about the honesty. Hollywood, for all its public-facing glamour, thrives on obfuscation. Actors and producers trade compliments in interviews even when they can't stand each other in private. Behind every red carpet photo are years of layered histories. Grudges, betrayals, failed collaborations, simmering rivalries. By laying his cards on the table, Clooney did what few dare. He punctured the myth that professionalism always means pretending to get along. His actions sparked a broader conversation, too, about the emotional toll of long-term creative relationships, the fine line between collaboration and compromise, and the unspoken rule that civility must always outweigh candor. Suddenly, actors were being asked who they disliked working with, and the taboo around naming names started to erode, even if just slightly. Clooney had cracked open the door, and others were now peeking through. At the heart of the reaction was the realization that even in a space so carefully choreographed, humanity still breaks through. Actors, after all, are people, subject to irritation, ego, disappointment, and pride like anyone else. And for someone of Clooney's stature to admit dislike, to call out peers so directly, felt like a moment of rare vulnerability. It wasn't a tantrum or a strategic power move. It was a deeply human acknowledgement that not all relationships, even those bound by art, are immune to discord. Speculation about future projects involving Clooney now hung in the air. Would he refuse to work with these 5 actors again? Would his production company draw quiet boundaries behind the scenes? Would others in his orbit follow suit, drawing lines of their own? The answers remained unspoken, but the possibilities lingered. Hollywood thrives on reputation and association. Being on Clooney's bad side, especially in such a public fashion, was not something easily brushed off. One could sense the recalibration in the air. Agents advising clients to steer clear of provocation, studio heads asking quiet questions during casting discussions. Clooney hadn't just shared a personal opinion. He had redefined a boundary. He had made it clear that professional conduct does not mean swallowing years of discontent, that honesty, even when uncomfortable, still has a place in an industry obsessed with image. Even those who disagreed with his method had to admit its potency. There was a strange kind of courage in saying what most avoid. Whether the 5 actors he named respond or remain silent, the mark has been made. Their names are now part of a new chapter in Clooney's public narrative, not as co-stars or collaborators, but as cautionary tales about the cost of friction in high-stakes, high-profile careers. As days passed, the echoes of the moment refused to fade. It wasn't just about who Clooney disliked, it was about what it meant to be disliked by him. A man once dubbed the last movie star, someone who straddled the old and new worlds of cinema with effortless grace, had drawn a line in the sand. That line, invisible though it may be, now exists in the minds of producers, writers, and actors alike. Perhaps what made the moment so compelling wasn't just the naming of names, but what it said about the man himself. After years of playing the game, winning awards, charming audiences, and avoiding petty drama, Clooney had stepped forward not as an icon or a diplomat, but as a veteran calling things as he saw them. It was a reminder that the world of film, for all its artistry and illusion, is still built on real relationships, and those relationships, like any other, can fray, rupture, or explode. Even now, long after the names were spoken, the reverberations continue. Conversations in boardrooms and backlots carry an added layer of caution. New alliances form quietly. Others dissolve just as subtly. The ripple effect is ongoing, not loud or theatrical, but steady and unmistakable. In a world where perception shapes opportunity, being on the wrong end of George Clooney's honesty is no small thing. The spectacle of it all, the rawness, the defiance, the unmistakable finality, marked a rare moment where Hollywood dropped its mask. And behind that mask, There was no scandal manufactured for headlines, no PR stunt orchestrated for relevance. There was just a man, one of the most famous in the world, deciding that silence was no longer worth the weight it carried. And that choice, more than any role or award, may be what people remember for years to come. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on George Clooney naming 5 actors he hates publicly? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.